How to reef a sail, reefing a mainsail with a single line reefing system, slab reefing a sail, and reefing a float in a dinghy. We'll look at roller reefing or furling, a simple single-hander, and two types of slab reefing on family boats. So if we want to reef or furl the sail to make it smaller, it's actually really easy on this kind of boat. Loosen the kicker, but don't release it. Loosen the outhaul. Detach the sail from the boom, and we can pass the sail around the mast to ourselves. And we want to keep it tight as we're doing this. And go around 1 or 2 full turns, depending on how much sail you want left. Attach the sail back onto the boom. Pull the outhaul tight. Pull the kicker tight, and there you go. You can see how much sail area we've lost now because it's wrapped around the mast, so we've got a smaller sail to use. There's another way of reefing as well, so we can release the kicker completely from the mast, loosen the outhaul right off, and we'll just rotate the mast around 1 or 2 turns again. This is ideal when it's really windy because we're not holding the sail and the sail will stay flapping into the wind. Put the kicker back on, put the outhaul back on, and we're good to go. Let's look at the double handers now. There's a bit more to it. So the Hartley 15 has a single line reefing system. So on the bottom of the boom there's one line here, but it actually pulls 2 lines out of the boom, 2 reefing lines. So one comes out right at the front of the boom here, and then the other at the back. See, we've got this long reefing line here. So these reefing lines go up through these metal eyes in the sail, the cringles, one at the back and one at the luff of the sail here, and they're to collect the sail together onto the boom. It's easier in terms of wind to do it when the sail's down, but it's easier to see what you're doing if you've got the sail up. So I've dropped the sail a bit so I can get to the cringles. So we want to make sure the reefing line isn't twisted at all. So it comes out of the starboard end of the boom. So I'm starting, coming up the starboard side, and then going back down all the way to the top cringle first, then go in and out through the cringles. Don't start at the bottom because the cringles are vertical down the sail, and the leach of the sail, the back edge, is not vertical, obviously, because it's a triangle. So on this one, there's a knot in the end of the line, and that slides into the boom track, and it wants to sit just above where the cringles are, so it pulls all ice together, and then the reefing line also acts as an outhaul to pull the sail out to hold it nice and tight. On the bow, because the mast is holding the sail in place, I've actually hoisted the sail back up again, and I'm just standing on the foredeck. Just be careful if you've got a fragile boat and how much more weight you put onto a trolley if you're going to do this, or do it when the sail's dropped. But with a sail up, it's really easy to make sure the line's not twisted. This time the reefing line comes out of the port side of the boom, so I'm going through the port side of the sail first, through the cringles on the way down. I'm not going to go through the bottom one because the downhaul already goes through here, and if you need to, make sure you've got enough slack. We also want to watch on the starboard side of the boom. We've got the boom vang here. We want to make sure the lines are inside of that, or it'll get stuck as we're dropping the sail down. On the boom there's a metal eyelet here, or you've got some notches in the front of the boom to tie the line off. So just like tying the halyard onto the sail, I'm just going to tie off the end of the line by putting a loop through the cringle there and a knot through. Okay, so with the sail up, the line should be slack enough that the sail can be uninterrupted, but then when we pull it tight, it'll pull the sail together. So looking up the sail here, the reefing line comes out of the boom straight up to the top cringle, and then we're zigzagging in and out on the inside of the boom bangs, it doesn't get tangled, and then it's come down, tied off onto this to lie here. So to start with, I'm going to release the halyard to let the sail start to come down, and I'm going to pull the Cunningham tight first to bring the tack nice and close, and that's coming really tight down to the boom. Then I'm going to pull the outhaul tight. Okay, so we're trying to get the sail nice and flat and smaller to reduce power. We want all this slack sail, once it's reefed, to be really tight and secure to the boom so it's not flashing around. Then we can start pulling the reefing line, and that should start collecting the sail up. We might need to encourage the sail to come down the mast and just watch that you don't get the halyard caught in the cleat. Keep going until you've got the reefing line really nice and tight as you can. So now we've got these creases in the luff of the sail. That's because the halyard's come down a little bit too far. So just like we use a downhaul to stretch the luff to depower, now we haven't got one, so we use a halyard to pull the sail back up to tension the luff again, which is going to help flatten the sail off. As normal, I'm going to put my stopper knot in the halyard and then put the kicker back on, and then you see now we've got a nicely reduced sail size, which is going to be much easier to handle in some wind. With a single line reefing system on the Hartley 15, it's quite easy to reef on the water. I'll show you how to do that in a moment, but first we'll have a look at the Wayfarer because it's got a slightly different system. So to reef this sail, see the metal kringle here is exactly the same height as the reefing lines. There isn't a separate downhaul eye like we've got here. So we need the reefing lines and the metal kringle on the luff here and the leech there all to be the same height above the boom. So I'm going to take the downhaul out of the sail because there isn't a separate reefing line at the front. We'll reuse the downhaul in this eye here. The reefing line at the back is, I'm going to pull that to start to take some tension up. That's just fed through a cleat on the starboard side, just on the other side of the sail. And drop the sail slowly. I'm just trying to not drop the boom onto the boat too much, basically. Keep pulling the line tight. Be careful not to pull the boom off here as well when we're pulling the line outboard. So dropping this kringle here to just above the height of the boom so that the reefing lines should be the same height, and then we want that reefing line at the end to be really tight. Okay, so see we've got the reefing line tight at the end, and this diagonal crease is showing how much tension is in the sail there, and that's partly because this isn't attached yet. So we'll attach our downhaul through the new tack of the sail, and I'm just going to pull that tight. Now again, we want the sail nice and tight so it's flattening it out because we're trying to depower if we're reefing. If we need to, if we've got quite a big gap here, we could always get a little extra piece of rope to tie this eye forwards around the mast. So I've done that. What I've actually done is I've just taken this downhaul through the eye, round the mast and back through before taking it down to cleat it off. What we're trying to avoid is if there's too much pull backwards on the luff of the sail where it's not attached to the boom anymore, there's a risk that the sail could start pulling out of the sail track. So we want the tension of the foot of the sail to be taken directly from the mast, really. So now we've got this excess of sail, which is obviously going to be getting in the way. So what we need to do is tie these reefing lines around the sail. So try and get the sail nice and tidy. neat, and the reefing lines which come through the sail take both ends and we tie them together, and guess what, this is where it's good to use a reef knot. Work your way along the boat, and for all three reefing lines we want the sail nice and tight to the boom. You can do this with a sail down in the boat, but we really need to get the tension in the foot of the sail first before we tie these reefing lines, or you might end up having vertical creases down the sail. And be careful here that we're avoiding the main sheet, so we're not tying the main sheet inside the reefing lines, yeah, or it'll jam the main sheet, we'll not be able to trim the sail. And there we go, so I've tied reef knots in all of the reefing lines, the sail's nice and tight, and we've taken all of that bottom section out of the sail, and we've tied all the excess sail up to the boom. So if we want to put a second reef into this sail, it's exactly the same process. We just drop the sail down again and we can tie the extra sets of reefing lines around. We might need to re-thread or add an additional rope to tension the lead of the sail out to the end of the boom. And this is what that looks like with two reefs in the Wayfarer sail. So see, we can really make the sail nice and small, which is great for when it's really windy.
To reef afloat, sail the boat on a close reach or a close hauled course and release the main sheet, but keep the jib on so that you've got some forwards power. We need to be able to steer the boat at a steady angle to the wind, at an angle that allows us to fully release all the power from the mainsail. Pull the downhaul and outhaul tight to hold the foot of the sail tightly to the boom. Release the halyard to allow the sail to start coming down. Pulling a reefing line will start collecting the bottom slab of the sail together. You can see now that there are some creases along the sail from front to back. When we've got the reefing line really tight, we need to pull the halyard tight again to pull the mainsail back up, take those creases out and flatten the sail off. Tidy up any loose lines in the boat. You'll have a long reefing line in the boat now, and make sure the main halyard is tidy after adjusting it. Now you're good to go.
If you're still working on your sailing skills, comment below if there's anything particular you want to improve. Otherwise, have a look at this playlist here where there's a load of videos I've made already.